Welcome back, everybody. And yes, it is me. It is the Cyber Warrior. This is Cyber Warrior Studios. And I know you are all here for another amazing episode of Security Happy Hour. And with me this evening, I have a repeat guest, but it's been a while since we talked to him. But due to current situations and things going on, I felt it was prudent to bring him on to talk mental health and resilience. And that's what we're going to be talking about this evening. So, regardless of whether or not you're in cyber or you know people in cyber, feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe. Let people know we're here so that they can join in on the conversation as well. And if you wait about 10 seconds, we'll be right back. And we're back. See? 10 seconds is all it takes. With me this evening, I have Philip Wiley of The Philip Wiley Show, host, founder, all those fun things for all the things he does. And Phil, it's been a long time since we had a conversation. How you been, man?
Good. Yeah, it's been a while. The last time I spoke with you, wow, it was right before B-side San Antonio, which would have been June 2023.
Yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
long time, and a lot of things
Yeah.
have changed in your life.
Yeah.
Different
Yeah.
shows, different jobs, and now your current situation, which is really what we want to talk about. But fill us in kind of how you got to where you're at now, where you're actually on the job market.
Yeah. So yeah, I was working for a company called Horizon 3 AI. They're an autonomous pen testing product, which they do automated pen testing. And one of the things I'll say too, because whenever I was laid off on Monday, I was working in community after Black Hat and DEF CON last year. Senior executive management thought, yeah, this guy, he needs to be full-time community. I was in customer success. So I got moved over there, and, being a startup, things move quickly, and, strategies change. So the funding for community wasn't funded yet. So, we had a plan, we come up with a strategy for it, and they just decided not to fund community or couldn't get the funding to do that. So I got laid off. It's company's doing good. It's a good company. I highly recommend their product, but I was very disappointed and bummed out when it happened, because this has been one of the best fits for me, because I like public speaking, and I was doing that. They supported that role there and all. And so I got laid off, and I was really disappointed, but all the outpouring from the community, later that evening, all the messages I was getting on social media and text messages and phone calls and stuff, it just really turned my attitude around. You know, I saw it as an opportunity to find something better. Not to say there was anything wrong with where I was at, but there's always something that's a little bit better. Any job you work at, you never have a complete 100% perfect situation. So there's always room
Mhm.
for something different. And that's kind of the way I saw it. And one of the things I also saw too is some of the things, that's one of the reasons I really encourage people to get involved in the community or get involved in a community, because one of the things that was reassuring is I had my family in my community and my friends. So
Right.
the thing you may not get from a job, you may not get that unconditional loyalty and from a company, because they're doing business and they make decisions based on business, not feelings. And so I just kind of realized I got my community, my friends, and my family to lean back on, that they're there to support, you know, jobs, or, it's, you got to do one of the things for the people listening is you got to do what's good for you, because at the end of the day, what happened to me was only business. And that's the way all companies think. You need to kind of keep that in mind, because it's only business. If if better opportunities come along to you and it makes sense, then go for it, because at the end of the day, if a company has to make a business decision, they're going to decide in the best interest of the company.
Yeah, definitely. And talking about careers and stuff, and before we really delve into the mental health aspect of it and the resiliency aspect of it, because you said a lot about support systems, so I want to get into that. But what I think a lot of people need to realize is that, and maybe it's just me, but once pensions went out the window, 40 and they went to 401ks, well, you can roll your 401k over anywhere. So to be loyal to a company that isn't going to give you the raises other than a cost of living raise, right? So many companies, it's like, oh, it's 3 to 5% or 1 to 5 or whatever percentage they want to put on it. never equates to the cost of living.
No.
If that's your raise on an annual basis, and a company comes around and says, "Hey, you can do X, Y, and Z," um, and it's what you want to do, and they're going to pay you 15, 20 grand more a year. It's a lot more than what you would have been getting. Go.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, now there is something to say though for the leadership teams involved. If you are with a good team and a good leader, then you have to take that into account because you're not always going to have that leadership when you go to your next job.
That's
For
true.
instance, you like, public speaking and going to conferences and doing all this, and they're very cognizant of that. Some companies may not be, and so you have to kind of gauge what you're getting out of it and what you're losing. But I do think that a lot of people just look down on, or a lot of senior leadership may look down on jumping companies. But at the end of the day, look, I'm gonna go where the money's at. If somebody's gonna
Yes.
pay me 15, 20 grand more a year, and you're not willing to offer me that, I got a wife and kids, man. I got mouths to feed. I'm gonna go.
Yeah. And that's the thing you got to realize too. When you're responsible, you've got a family and stuff, then that's even a bigger consideration, and also kind of a consideration where you make moves. You're
Yep.
going somewhere that's less stable because like startup life is not real stable. There's a lot of turnover, whereas in corporate America, there's a little more stability. But the crazy thing about how this is these days is it's really hard to be able to retire from a job. And you mentioned pensions, them going away from pensions to 401ks. It's nice that it's portable, but the sad thing about it is you remember used to, I like, my older family members, aunts, uncles, grandparents, parents, and all this, if they had a pension, you got a pension that meant that you didn't have to worry about it whenever it came time to retire. You were going to be able to retire. And nowadays, it's if you just do the match, what you're getting from the companies, you're probably not going to retire very well. You've got to
Yeah.
put more money in there above that. And I don't know, it's just so the whole thing of not being able to stay with companies forever. Cause my dad was a welder and he got laid off from the company where he was at. He was very loyal, put in a lot of hours, and when they needed to cut someone, they got rid of him. So I mean, it's
And it's a big mental health thing too, because you look at my grandfather got laid off from Nabisco um, when they were closing their plant down here in Pittsburgh, and so he lost his job, he lost his pension and everything because it was like, oh well, it's gone. So like you expect to have these things over years of loyalty, and you just don't. Um, and I think that goes to companies too. You just lose out of so much without that pension. And even still, to your point, they'll just cut you loose. People need to realize you are just a number to any company. I don't care how small the company is or how big the company is. You're a number. They got to make business moves and do what's best for
yep,
business. I don't disagree with the business owner that's like, "Hey, look, we're not making ends meet. We got to cut the fat somewhere. We're just going to cut this line of business." Cool. I understand. I don't get mad. As someone who has tried to start, has owned several businesses, has done different things, I get it. But people do need to understand at the same time, there's families involved. There's other things involved, and when they do it in such a way that it's just, hey, we're not going to tell anybody or give them a chance to like find another job. We're just going to let them go. That's where I have the issue. I don't have
yeah,
an issue with layoffs. I have an issue where you don't give them the timing to be like, hey, look, this job, look, we're cutting it. Come next month, you're gone. Start looking for another job. Like that would make more sense.
yeah. One of the best experiences I had with a layoff was one time when I used to work for MetLife Mortgage or MetLife Home Loans. It was part of MetLife Bank, and one of the best experiences I had there is they actually let us know when we're getting laid off. So they came up and kind of told us that 90 days before you get your notice, we're going to let you know. So we were able to plan for that, and one of my managers was really super cool because I found a job. I applied for a job with a company as a consultant, as a pen tester, and always wanted to be a pen tester, or not always, but I did once I got into security for a while and found out about pen testing roles. So I whenever I found out my job was probably going to be eliminated, I applied for the role. I got the offer, and my manager said, "Okay, take the job because I don't want you to lose, lose the, the opportunity." And he said, "Just email us when you got something needs to be taken care of. We'll take care of it." So I was at both companies at the same time while they were overseeing my work because it was basically winding down and handing off. So there's really nothing going on. But there was a proper warning ahead of time that you're losing your job and a
Yeah.
plan with it. In some cases nowadays, it's like you come up that day and you don't see it coming, and then boom, you're caught off guard.
Yep. And Robert, my buddy Robert here says, precisely what a lot of people are coming to this type of mindset. Companies ask for a 2 weeks notice, but never give you the same courtesy.
Yeah.
Never. Uh, Other than your point right there, right? Hey, this is coming up. This is going to happen. How often does that actually happen? How often does a company actually go, "Hey, you're fired, but you have 2 weeks till you're let go, so start looking for another job." Like things like that. I, I just think companies lack the common courtesy that they expect from their employees.
And one of the things is just kind of, I'm a people person, and I, make friends wherever I go. And, get in those situations where you're terminated and you don't get to tell your coworkers goodbye, or, today's my last day. Bye. Here's my email address, phone number if you want to stay in touch, and, get the
Yeah.
opportunity to do that. And it's just kind of, yeah.
Oh, I keep in touch with. I've got numbers and contacts with almost with many people of other companies I've been at. And it's just because, when it comes to mental health and really making it in any industry, your network is key. Because when things happen that you don't expect, like being laid off, that network is going to come into play because that is who's going to support you because they know you. They know your work ethic. They know what you're capable of. So if you were to attack it all on your own, like it was prior to the days of computers and social media and LinkedIn and everything, you're out there going to every single office handing out resumes. Like,
Yep.
hey, give me a shot and interview me. Or calling up, hoping to get a hold of somebody that maybe you were lucky enough to make friends with, an executive or a director or something like that in your lifetime. Like, hey, I just got laid off. Nowadays, it's you make one post on social media and people know you, they follow you. Like, look, I know this guy. I've either worked with him or her, or, they were my leader at some point, or whatever the case may be. And they're going to be out there supporting you and helping you find work. And so, as much as social media has been a detriment to society, I think it has also been a very good thing when used properly. And
Yes, I totally
networking is
agree.
one of those things.
Yeah, I attribute social media to like quite a bit of my success because just, being active on there, meeting people, it makes it a lot easier to find jobs. I mean, it's a good way to amplify the other things you're doing because, like the conference speaking and stuff, I'm able to connect with people with conferences when I meet them in person. And one of the things too, I encourage people when you're networking, online's good, but you ever get the opportunity to meet people in person, do that because that
Yeah,
kind of builds stronger bonds and relationships with people when you finally get to meet in person. But the cool thing about it is that's one of my favorite things is to meet my Twitter friends or uh, LinkedIn friends in person for the first time or get to see them periodically. And even though you may have not known them outside of virtual, when you meet them, sometimes it seems like you've known each other forever and stuff. But it's just, yeah, definitely one of the things I definitely the in person stuff. You just gotta, that's, yeah, because
absolutely.
there's some cases, there's people online if you're on like Twitter or now X or things other social media platforms, people use avatars and handles. You don't know who the heck they are, but then when you get to meet the people in person and stuff and make those connections, because sometimes people may not even connect with you online, but you're out somewhere at a conference or something, then people sometimes are uh, more than likely to come up introduce themselves.
Yeah, and I think that goes a long way. And one of the detriments to I think the cyber community, and I'm sure there's others, is the social anxiety. You spend so much of your time online and behind a screen. You don't know how to interact in public. Now, some do, some don't. It's more of a generalization, but in in that same sense, I have always thrived in public settings, getting to meet people, talk to people. have a couple drinks if they drink. If not, it's all good. If they smoke, I'll have a cigarette with them. Like whatever the case may be, I thrive in those settings just because I prefer being in person and talking to people. But that's also
Same.
why I don't work at an office because I like to talk to people.
Yeah. You and me are a lot alike in that aspect. I get more work done if I'm at home because, you're going to get some water or whatever, you know, and then you run into someone, you talk to someone to and from your day. Yeah. I can
Yeah.
totally relate.
So, good question. And I guess this goes a lot to what we're talking about. As someone, to some who were laid off, how many recruiters did you blow off when you felt stable? Because half of his spam calls are recruiters.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Thing about me when I'm getting messages from recruiters, always treat them with respect and let them know, yeah, this is not my area of expertise. I'm not looking for a job right now. But one of the things that's kind of hard to respond to is when you get these people that are just going out shooting hundreds or thousands of messages out to all these people, don't even pay attention to see what you're doing, or just, I don't know, not very friendly in their delivery.
Yeah,
If you're nice to me and you're respectful, uh, then I'm going to do more for you. There's cases I'll go above and beyond and say, hey, I know someone that's good for this role, or either I'll share their post on social media about the job to get them some leads.
yeah. My big thing with that is, and again, is because we're all human, right? Everybody got a job to do. Recruiters are there for a reason, whether or not they know cybersecurity or IT or whatever career field they're hiring for, right? Whatever the job is, they're still there to do a job. So there's times I will actually have conversations with them solely to instruct them on what the better questions are to ask. Because I've legitimately had recruiters call me asking if I have if I'm GX certified, and I've had to be like, well, which one? Like, well, what do you mean which one? Well, because GX is a certification authority for SAN certifications. So which one? Because there's more than one. There's
Yeah.
actually quite a few. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, all right, so this is what you need to do. You need to go back to the company you're hiring for, and you need to see exactly what they're looking for. Talk to somebody that's technical and knows this, because at the time I took that call, it was right when I got out of the army. I had like 5 SAN certifications. I'm like, I don't, I don't know what to tell you. Like, yeah, am I GX certified? Yes, but which one do you want? Because I have 5. So I think that's a big thing is being a human though, and understanding everybody has a job to do.
Yeah.
But I agree that like sometimes we get these messages, and I get them all the time on LinkedIn. Hey, I'm looking for help desk, just because years ago I did help desk in the Air Force. Dude, please, please, I beg of you, look at my profile. Like, don't
Yeah.
use an AI robot to come like try to recruit. So, but you've had to deal with a lot. This layoff came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Mentally, what do you think kept you in the game the most? Was it your network? Was it your own perseverance? Like, what has helped you the most? You think just kind of keep your head up and kept you going?
I think it's a combination of my perseverance in the community and the support of friends and family. I think that has helped a lot. But one of the things, just like for instance, when it comes to jobs, I'm old enough to start withdrawing from my 401k now, and I got 2 years worth of cash. If I wanted to retire, I could, but I'm not ready to because I enjoy what I'm doing. I love the community. And when I work for companies that value and leverage my public speaking, then I'm getting to go to these conferences on someone else's dime and saving money. So yeah, it's perseverance and the community thing, because I have goals and things I want to do, and I want to maintain a certain level of conferences that I speak at each year, and continue to build upon my brand and what I do, and really don't want to go backwards. And so that's one of the things I looked at when I got laid off, is just, this is the opportunity to find something better that's a better fit. Because sometimes there's cases where you go into a company and they're at a certain level and you may not be able to help them as much as you could a newer company and so
Right.
forth. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some companies that and there's some people too, right? They're great at helping to start an organization, but then once you get past that startup phase into the really maintain or accelerated phase, they're not as good, right? They
Yes.
can bring in a lot of those initial clients when you don't have a vision necessarily. You're just like, I want to be a security company. So you sell all the things to all the people and you keep things afloat. There's people that are very good at that.
Yeah.
But then when you have an actual like mission statement and drive and things that you sell, that's where they're kind of like, and that's when they have to move on. So I mean, I get that, and there, and again to your point, being in the public eye and being in public speaking and going to conferences, you have to be with the right company because a lot of companies won't pay for that. A lot of
Yeah.
companies are like, no, you work for me and you work here,
Some
and you're like,
companies don't want it. Some companies don't want you speaking,
yeah,
or unless your presentation goes through legal. And sometimes the time it takes is too long, and they don't really value that. And it's yeah, so that's one of the reasons that whenever I go to organizations, I look for ones that the public speaking is valued. I mean, I've
yeah,
had managers a lot of places. I had managers at a bank I worked for that my manager and director, my manager's direct boss, they all appreciated and liked what I did and valued it, which was good, which made it easier for me to get time away to go to the conferences. But that was the level of the support. But the overall organization, you'd have to go through and get approved. I know people that work there that speak that don't even say they work for that organization. They just have undisclosed, so that way they can do what they want to, and I have to mess with legal and not worry about any kind of issues with work.
yeah. And so one of the things that I've done in the past is if I go speak somewhere or if I'm going to do something and it's coming out of my pocket, so we're not talking reimbursement, the company's not paying for it. I don't mention who I work for.
Same.
I don't put their name on anything. It is legitimately, yep, this is what I do. Now, if somebody wants to go do the research, because I'm always very open about what I do on LinkedIn
Yeah.
and I put where I work and what I do. And it's mainly just because I do want to give the company a good name. And
Yes.
I
Yeah.
do want people to find them. One, because, well, I work for them. And two, because if somebody finds them, that just means we're making money as an organization, which means you can't fire me because
Yeah.
I'm not going to run into a position of we're not making money. We got to let people go.
Yeah.
You can fire me for screwing up by all means, but if I ain't screwing up, you can't fire me for lack of funds. Like that's the way I look at it. But I do. I think but I think for me, the mental health aspect of it of speaking is just so much for me because when I talk to people like yourself or put out the videos I do, and just like you as a host of a podcast and getting to talk to people, hearing people's stories and being able to connect with them on a different level, I think it does so much for the psyche when you actually get to listen. And then you get to evaluate where you're at in that time and be like, can I help this person? Like, is there something I can do? And if not, you still built that bond, that friendship, that camaraderie of, hey, we're in this suck together, my guy. Let's go through and Charlie Mike, we're gonna work it out. So with that though, because you were correct me if I'm wrong, you either were and or had family or whatever, you were military, correct?
No.
No, you
No.
never were, but besides myself, I'm sure you've had some
Yeah. Yeah.
friends.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had lots of friends that are former military.
Yeah. So with that, resilience is a big part of what I do. And what we were taught going through the military. And it's really about being able to bounce back. How do you think, your ability to bounce back, has it come with age or is it something that was inherent with you from the time you were younger?
It's kind of a combination of things, and I think part of the being able to bounce back, I don't know, I guess some of it's gotta be just born with it, and another part's gotta be, I think, from my, past in competing in powerlifting.
Yeah.
and lifting, just learning to push through things. I think sometimes when you learn to push through the pain, and not telling people if you're working out, if you're injured, you don't want to push through that. But there's times where it's uncomfortable and you keep going. You kind of teach yourself to push, and you kind of learn if you're, trying to do a max or an extra rep on the bench press or squat, and it gets there, you don't feel like you can do it, but you keep pushing. It's just that's kind of part of it. You just kind of keep going, and I don't know. Sometimes, yes, part of it's got to be genetic or something, because I remember when I went through my first wife, I got divorced. She was having an affair, and that was a very difficult situation because that was my first serious relationship, and I thought my world ended. But one of the things that kind of kept me going and kept my head on straight was the fact I had a daughter,
Yeah.
that I had to do what was best for my daughter, and keep that in mind. And so that was one of the biggest driving factors through that issue, that moment.
So I think a lot. What I have found, me personally, with mental health and resilience, is it's about purpose. You can say it's your why. There's a lot of different variations of it, but it's really having purpose in life. And depending on the situation, your purpose may differ. But especially when it comes to family, when it comes to, like you said, your divorce and having a daughter and things like that. I got a wife and 5 kids. Like, my purpose in life is to provide for my family, and I always
Okay.
want to do better. So, as things um, go beyond, um, I I just think purpose is huge.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
and if you don't
That
have a
that
purpose, is when you really get into that hole and don't know a way out.
Yeah, and I really attribute purpose to a lot of my success, because a lot of the things I've done has been to help other people. So whenever in 2018, I really changed what my purpose was, day to day outside of family and stuff, was I started focusing on helping other people, because I started teaching at Dallas College in January of 2018. I've always been a goal-oriented person, always tried to be the best, and one of the things I'll preface that with is I was never the best hacker or pen tester, but always tried to be, work really hard, to be the best I could, study a lot and all that, and I just kind of changed my focus to helping others and mentoring, because the world needs coaches and mentors and
Right.
teachers. And so I found, that's my strength, and that's really where I changed my focus. But as a side effect, I'm speaking at these conferences, teaching workshops at conferences. I'm getting this visibility. I'm helping other people, but then I'm being rewarded.
Right.
Wasn't anything I was looking for. Didn't I never expected the benefits from it, but I was rewarded for what I did.
Yeah, and it's not a situation because I my purpose has always been to help others.
Mhm.
Even before I had a wife and kids, it was always to help others, and so going in the military was the way I saw to do it initially. Um, Getting medically retired, I realized even then, when I was deployed and doing other things, um, there were some stipulations that didn't allow me to help people. Um, so I kind of put it by the wayside, and when I went into cybersecurity, getting out in the civilian world, I wanted the same thing, and I still find more and more that the purpose that I have, it gets frustrating because I want to help people, and I feel like in cybersecurity, too many companies don't care, so it makes it hard to drive towards your purpose
Mhm.
when you see that people don't care. Like, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
So, um, but as far as resilience, man, for me, it's been my wife and kids. Like,
Yeah.
without them, I don't know where I'd be. I
Yeah.
legitimately don't. Like, a lot of my resilience, a lot of the things I do, um, motivation and discipline, and resiliency and mental health, they're things I learned over the years. I think when I was younger, I had resiliency, mainly because I was bullied a lot, even from my own family. And so you kind of learn to have thick skin and just not care.
Yeah.
Um, but then from there, I don't know, man. Like I kind of find I have my spiritual beliefs and things like that. And even with the physical pain and things that I go through on a daily basis, I've gotten a lot better, especially talking to somebody. Um, I think resiliency is the hardest thing to really grow.
Yeah, I
Mental
think so
health is
too.
one thing, but having the resiliency when you're knocked down
Yeah.
is difficult.
Yeah, one of the things that's helped me over the years, one of the things I've gotten where I do is I try to find positive a positive lesson or something positive about any negative event. I look at the positive end, and just like getting laid off from this job. This could have been the job holding me back from the job I was really meant to do, or the best job for me. Maybe it
Right.
was preventing me from finding that. So that's kind of the way I look at it. And so just trying to learn lessons from it and move on. And it's a way to adapt, because there's a lot of my weaknesses and things I had to deal with. It was really tough, that I've learned over the years how to deal with. And some of my things that sometimes I might get upset easily or offended easily. And I've kind of learned this is the way I treat other people, is to make sure I'm really careful with them, because I know there's times that some things may upset me or hurt my feelings, and to treat everyone else the same way, that same respect, because it could them as well. I'm thinking of any way I respond to them. And like one of the ways I react on social media is, before I post that post, I look at any way it could have been taken wrong and all that before I post it, because it's kind of, I guess you could say, on the people the way they interpret it. But at the same time too, I don't want to unintentionally hurt someone's feelings or offend someone when it's just, you know,
I get what you're saying, and that very quickly take me down a different route. So we'll try to
yeah,
see how I say these things. But although they say perception is reality, I think you have to also look at intent. And if
yeah,
your intent is not to do so, then I don't care what your perception is.
yes,
If my intent is to motivate and help others, and I happen to say certain words that you find offensive, or you're like, well, you're not talking about everybody. Um, no, I look, this is who I am. If you get that, you got to look at the intent behind the message versus the message itself. And I think some people miss that. They
yeah,
don't see the forest through the trees, as they say. And so they get so caught up on the minute details of like, oh my God, this hurt my feelings. And I think that's a very, very big detriment to mental health and resiliency is they key in on anything that'll make them feel bad. Like, how
yeah,
can I dissect this to make myself feel bad? Why are you so but this goes back to part of the reason that social media is such a detriment, again, as we said earlier, detriment and a benefit to society. One of the biggest detriments is there's so much drama and negativity and
yeah,
um, just piss poor like videos and content and messaging out there, and people get consumed by it, and so they
yeah,
become that. And it's
yep,
it's like the constant saying, "Misery loves company." So if I'm miserable in who I am and what I believe and what I do, and I have no faith in anything, then guess what? I'm gonna push that on others. And I think that is really where the crux of it is in messaging is you could sit there and be the most positive person and want to help everybody. But all of a sudden you say one wrong word and they're like, oh my God, he hates like three-quarters of us. Like, no, that's not what I was saying. Completely missed the message because of one word. Like and I think that's the kind of society we got into.
yeah. Seeing Robert saying something, that perception is a liar. That it can definitely be that. Perception is one of those things that I have a difficult time with, and it's not perception of myself. It's just sometimes some people, the perception that they try to build, that they're trying to be something they're not. And that, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, Robert, me and Robert are good friends. We starved together. Love that man to death. Um, but yeah, I love how he says perception is a liar because the common term is or saying is perception is reality. Perception is
Yeah.
perception.
Yeah. Perception is the person that perceives its reality. So, I mean, if they think it's true, and that's like a lot of people that try to live off perception that claim to be certain level hacker or they've done this or that or whatever and just, try to sell a load of bull,
Yep.
and they buy into it. For me, one of the things I'm talking to people, I'm talking about what I do. I try to be transparent. I don't ever say that I was a better hacker, a better pen tester than I was. When people come and bring this or that, I'll be transparent about it because I want to be, you know, authentic and transparent about it. I want to be, known for what I am. I don't want to be overestimated or underestimated. But yeah, some people, the perception thing, yeah, that some people kind of use it to their advantage to make them try to make themselves look good. And it's at the price of honesty and integrity.
Yeah, for sure. Perception is reality colored in your experience. Damn it, Robert.
That,
You need to tune in more, man. You're coming out with all the things today.
that's a good one.
Put that one up there. And it's true. And that's where your perception comes from, is what your experience is in life. And so it's catch 22. It really is.
Yeah.
And again, people need to look at intent. Um, and that's what I think a lot of people miss is the intent behind the message. They look at the message and hear one wrong thing and then miss the entire intent behind it. But with that, you know, I've been fired from a job. I've been turned down for many jobs, many jobs, and especially coming out of the army. And I just look at it as for those people that have been let go, what would you say to kind of help them? Like, what would be as far as resilience, mental health, motivation, determination, discipline, things like that? Like, how would you advise those that are in your same situation?
As far as like rejection or anything, or even losing a job or whatever, is just, it's not everything's always a good fit. So, like, if you're applying somewhere, you don't get the job, it doesn't mean you're not fit. I mean, because a lot of times jobs are personality fits. Because, like, my very first pen testing role, I had 6 years of sysadmin experience, like 7 years of AppSec, a year and a half of network security. I'd run vulnerability scanners, had no hacking experience, but the hiring manager liked that I learned on my own time after work, that I built home labs. I taught myself how to do web design, hosted a web server at home, and all this stuff. And he liked me because I fit his way of doing things. He always taught everyone to build, not so much hack stuff. Learn it, build, go out, build this. That way you can learn the security of it, the nuts and bolts, how it works. So sometimes it's just a matter of a culture fit or a personality fit. You may meet this person, they like your attitude. Maybe you don't have 90% of what they need, but if they see that you're willing to learn, take criticism, and continue to learn whether you fail or not, you know, these could be strengths in your favor. That's another reason with the networking is you need to get out and try to do stuff in person, even if you have to have a Zoom call. Sometimes the personality fit, it's not always personal. Sometimes they may see your background and, like someone like you, a hiring manager may see your military background and that resonates with them. Or you take someone that went to whatever college, someone else from their alumni, they may, it's just kind of the way it works. So don't ever let you think it's you. Sometimes it's a personality fit. That's like one of the best managers of my career was a C level, and we got along really well, and some other people got really along really well. And if you were on their side, they liked you. They would do anything for you, go to bat for you. But if they didn't like you, they didn't extend that towards you. They weren't a bad person, but you know what I'm saying is that's just the way the world operates. We're all human, and so if you got sometimes there's people on your side that are going to help you, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're just kind of neutral. But it's not you. And like the case of me losing this job, it was business. You know?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big things that people miss out on. Everybody wants to judge somebody, right? I swear humans are the most judgmental creatures ever in life to ever exist. That it's absolutely ridiculous. But the reality of it is, when you're looking for work and you're dealing with you, you need to be able to control your emotions. So when
Yes.
you're looking for work, when you've been laid off, or if you're just breaking into a career field, I'm not even going to say just cyber, like any career field in general. Two things about it: one, you can't let your desperation show. Two, you have to be confident in who you are. So if you have something to offer, then go out there and prove it and show you have something to offer, and that'll get you most interviews. Then it comes down to that conversation. And even myself, Phil, I had the same thing happen to me. I didn't know McAfee ESM, not for the life of me. I touched it like once in the army. My second job out of the army that got me quite a bit pay raise was not because of ESM, was because I was self-taught. I taught myself every tool under the sun. And they were like, you can learn? Bet, got you. You're hired. And so, like, things like that, my confidence going in, and I literally would tell people, I can learn anything. You put a tool in front of me, I can figure it out. Does not matter what it is. Put it in front of me, I can figure it out. And they were like, we want you. And I asked them, I said, why? Why did you hire me? I legitimately asked that question. I was like, because I didn't know shit about this tool. And they're like, because you can learn and you're willing to learn, and you can fit in with the rest of us that are still figuring shit out on the fly sometimes. Cool. Good. Good to know. Good to know that we're all in the same boat sometimes. And that was one of the biggest things. Um, is just being able to do that. Robert, I know you're AV, dude. Like, homie, you're my boy. You're audiovisual. I don't know how you're still AV. You knew more about freaking networking and anything than when I was, and so you blow my mind. The fact that you're AV right now, fucking 25 Romeos, they'll do whatever. I do have two questions here from Griffin InfoSec. Love this guy to death, Matthew. He's my boy. He's been on the show before. Do you do mentorship at work or external?
I do it external.
So more like, now I'm gonna ask a question he didn't ask.
Yeah.
Is it free of charge? Because I know too many
Yeah.
people that ask for paid mentorship. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
ask you, is
Yeah.
it
It's
free of
free of
charge?
charge. It's free of
Hey,
charge. That's the only, there's only, and my gosh, that's one of my pet peeves is to see people that are, yeah, that are charging for mentorships and they're supposed to be this community person or whatever helping. I can see when you get to a certain point in your career, okay, now if you're a director, you're some at a certain level of salary, you've got plenty of money and you need some kind of expertise, some kind of coaching for someone to help you bring you up to where you could be a CISO or something like that. Or maybe you need a, you know, extra speech coaching, speaker coaching. I can see that. But people trying to break in and just really, I hate to see them getting taken advantage of. And anyone listening, there's always people out there that will mentor you for free. And usually they're doing it for free. Their heart's in the right place. Other people are trying to make money off of it. And they're not always, doesn't always mean they're good because they're charging you
yeah, and
for
that's one of the things that I've seen is like I've seen people that are like, oh, you can charge for coaching, you can charge for this, that, and the third. You can like, dude, no, my entire freaking show is free. It is on YouTube and Twitch and LinkedIn. Like, I don't delete any videos. Everything I do is free. You want to donate, donate. I don't care. I have merchandise and everything else out there, but I'm not asking you for a dime. Like, everything I do is free. But with that, you also have to understand that my time is valuable. So if I tell you I don't have time today because I've got a wife, 5 kids, a full-time job, currently, as of last Friday, recovering from knee surgery, like there are things in my life going on. You better not get disrespectful from somebody who is not charging you for any type of mentorship or help. The moment you get disrespectful, I'm gonna cut you off, and I will tell everybody not to deal with you. I am that guy. I'm petty like that. That if you get disrespectful because somebody doesn't have time that's not costing you anything, I- I'm just gonna put you on blast. It's just gonna happen. I'm sorry. No, not sorry. Gonna happen. Like that's just who I am. Because you have to understand time is money. And if I'm doing something for free out of the goodness of my heart, understand we all got lives. We all have things going on. That's just
Yep.
like dealing with half of the people out there that get your CEOs, like you were talking about, Phil. Your CEOs, your CIOs, your CISOs. Their time is valuable. So if they're charging you, it's usually to get to that level, and you're going to make a hell of a lot more in your
Yeah.
return on investment. But if they're not charging you, you better be willing to work by their schedule because they're probably putting in more hours than you are. Just say,
And one of the things I say too, as far as mentorship goes, the way I like to do it is someone wants me to mentor them. I'll have like a call, kind of get an idea of what they're wanting to do, kind of help give them some guidance, give them some direction. They go off and do it. If they need more help, they can come back, ask
yeah,
questions. Maybe we need another call, but most cases I give them advice, and usually it's just coming back, asking some questions and that type of thing. Because one of the things I found is I'd rather try to help a bunch of people than spend my time on just one or two people, because I'm able to give you enough information in a session or just that and periodic questions, answered later on. I can give you a lot of value that way. And it's just like I said, I'd rather help a lot of people than just focus on one or two.
yeah, yeah. And that's the big thing. Like for me, is helping as many people as I can. And again, this is why I started doing the content that I do. Right? Is to help as many people as possible. But I also put it out there for like newcomers. Like it's on you to make a name for yourself. It's on you to prove that you want to do this. Um, so when I look at all these situations, my words, your words, somebody else's words can only go so far. And I will do whatever I can to help you. But if you're not willing to put in the effort and the work, then it doesn't matter what I do. And so I will give you a phone call. I've legitimately had phone calls with people, especially people that have been on the show that are brand new to the industry or trying to break in. I give them my phone number. Like, homie, call me. Doesn't matter who it is. And my wife will be like, who are you talking to? Oh, so and so from the show. Oh, okay, cool. Like, and we'll have conversations about changing jobs, about resume advice, about potential jobs. Maybe they got an interview. Like, I have no problem doing that on my time because that's why I do this show. That's why I do what I do. But people that charge entry level people to break in, that's as bad as the certification industry right now. Like, mentally, that has to break you. Like, you have to look at it and be like, then what's the cost of entry? If the certifications cost this much and I got to build my resume a certain way and a resume builder is this much and you know this is this much, what is the cost of entry into these industries? And I think that breaks people mentally, spiritually, whatever. I think it legitimately breaks people is the cost of entry, which is why everything I do is free except for my full-time job. They have to pay me. But so thinking of that, I have seen. Actually, I think I got one more question here before I ask my question. I have another question here from Griffin. Would you say to prepare for 6 months to find a job that seems to be the average? How long would you say somebody should take to find a job?
Yeah, that's kind of hard to answer because I mean, it all depends on people. I've seen some people that might take them 6 months, some people longer, some people less time. That's just kind of really hard to gauge.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think it comes down to your network.
Yeah, I agree.
I,
That's going
I
to
think
dictate how soon. Yeah.
I ultimately think finding a job in this industry and it could be others. Again, I only have experience with IT and cybersecurity as far as finding a job. And in my experience, your network can get you a job within we'll say about a month, maybe two. Um, but if you don't have that network, if you've not built up your personal brand and who you are within this industry, it can take you a lot longer. Um, for those breaking in, mm, that can venture on anywhere from 3 months to 3 years. It can really take that long because companies are stingy and they're a pain in the ass. They legitimately don't want to hire people sometimes, and you'll fall for those jobs. They're like, oh yeah, we're hiring entry level, but you need 10 years experience. What? So, um, yeah, I think that's the big thing. Is just it really depends. Um, William Bailey says he's surprised that people aren't already reaching out to you about a new role. I believe we had that
Yeah,
conversation, but Phil.
yeah, they are. People are reaching out to me. As it was interesting because there was the year before last, I was in a job that didn't work out and I had to find a role. I gave my 2 weeks notice, and during my 2 weeks notice, I changed my status to looking for a job. And the day after my last day of my 2 week notice, I had two job offers. I got someone that comes around every time I'm out of work, offering me the job. So I typically have that one in the back pocket if I need it. But I've got some pretty good leads. I've gotten lots of people reach out to me. I had CIO and CISO of a vendor that reached out to me and said, "Hey, we've got an opening for a field CISO position. Apply for it and let me know when you did." And then I got referred for some other jobs, and I had someone else that just went to work for a pen test as a service company. He just joined. He wants me to come over there, so it's just a matter of we'll see how those pan out. But yeah, I've got a lot of response. Actually, last year I got laid off February last year,
Dude,
and
it's an annual thing for you now. Look, just be
yeah, I don't
prepared
want
for
to make it
next
annual.
February
Yeah,
to be if you find another job.
I know to start around December, so start putting out resumes so that way. But the interesting thing is when I knew I was leaving, it took me, like I said, during my 2 weeks, I was putting out resumes and stuff, asking around, and then by the next day after I wasn't out of work 24 hours and I had two offers. And then this time, since I got laid off, it took me about 6 weeks, and part of that was talking to Horizon 3. They were creating the role for me, and I went through a bunch of interviews and then getting the role approved. So it took a little longer to get that. But yeah, I've got some really good strong leads. Like I said, I got a person who works at a pen test at the service company that looks pretty strong, and another pen test the service company. Got to go talk to some of those people. But the one that's local to me here sounds really promising because they're actually uh, using some products and stuff that I've got experience with and relationships with those companies. So it's looking pretty good.
So, which is awesome. So this is what I want you to do, Phil. I want you to own the show. You're going to own the screen, and you are going to give people your own personal, from your point of view, mental health and resiliency advice anytime you lose a job.
Yeah, so my advice is just to, kind of take in consideration it's not the end of the world, and realize that what other things you have in your life, like your family, friends, and community, realize that you have those and just don't really, I mean, it's sometimes easier said than done, but don't let those things get you down. Try to stay focused and, realize it's not the only thing in life. Someone mentioned earlier that exercise is good for mental health. That's something I recommend is, getting exercise, getting your mind off what's going on. So maybe you're in a job search, you've been laid off, make sure to break away from it. And this is one of those times that, you know, after business hours, you're not going to get people, calling you about job interviews or much action there. So I would be focused on, you really got to detach when you're not at work. And there's some cases that maybe you were starting to get a little burnout and you needed some rest. So work on getting rest and working on improving your health and mental health. But yeah, that's yeah, because one of the things I just had to learn, it's kind of a mindset thing that you have to do is kind of I had to learn to, have a better mindset to kind of try to change or control the way I feel about something because that's what happened after Monday. And another thing about Monday that I didn't share here, but some of my you may have seen on Facebook or some of my Facebook friends would see this, but that same day was my brother's 56 would have been my brother's 56th birthday, and he'd been gone for like 30 years. Not more than that. He's been gone for over 30 something years. So yeah, was gone for like 34 years or something like that. And so that was the day I was getting ready to post up on, Facebook, just kind of my remembrance of my brother. And I mean, I do that with my family members because I don't want to forget them. And I just like to post periodically, reminders on their birthdays or just thinking about them and stuff. And I planned to do that. And it wasn't until a day or two later, that totally blew my train of thought because now all of a sudden I'm out of work and I'm really bummed out because I really like this job. And to kind of go a step further, how well I like this job, I normally keep my computer boxes around. So just in case I don't like the job or something comes up, I got my box to ship my computer back with. I threw away my computer box a while back because I thought I'm going to be here for a while and I plan to stick it out. But it's just like I said, it's just kind of you have to learn to cope with it. You can't force yourself to be a certain way or whatever. But I just kind of learned that one of the things I've kind of really noticed with my emotions is I used to really get really upset over something. And when I was younger, I'd break something or punch something, and it's something like now you destroyed your own property, and now you're even more pissed. And then if you don't try to control that anger, you make a situation a lot worse. If you just really get totally pissed and fly off the handle, for me, that escalates things and makes it worse. I get more upset and I dwell on it. If I just try to relax, calm down, and just deal with it calmly, then I do a lot better. So it's just in my experience, it's just a matter of learning how to deal with your emotions because when you just let it go, I'm not saying hold in your emotions, but things like just getting overly angry and stuff, I just kind of learned that, you just have to relax. And if you choose to do it in a relaxed manner, it's less stressful.
Yeah, definitely. And the job market is finicky. I think all career fields are. Now, I only have experience from IT and cybersecurity, but mental health feeds into physical. Well, correction. Let me correct that statement. Physical health feeds into mental health, which feeds into your spiritual health, and I think all three play a factor.
Yeah.
Personally, in that we surround ourselves with technology, which blinds us to the fact that you need to go work out, even if it's just going on a treadmill or going for a walk or whatever the case may be. Any type of exercise will benefit you not only physically but mentally because now you
Yeah.
have a different set of um, endorphins and dopamine and all this other stuff running through you. And so I think physically, if you improve all these things, it's legitimately it all feeds into one another.
Yeah. It's a
And
system.
when you learn to control your emotions, it makes it even better.
Yes.
Because now when you can control your emotions, now you're like, okay, this happened. So what am I gonna do? It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be
Yeah.
angry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be whatever. But what are you going to how are you going to fix it? Or how are you going to address that situation? And until you can get to that point in your life where you have control of your emotions and you're like, all right, I know this happened. This is bad. This is going to cause X, Y, and Z. How do I address this? Well, I got to do this, this, and this. Okay. And I think people that are more physically, mentally, and spiritually aware of themselves and have all of those facets are able to emotionally control where they're at in life. I think you, as a bodybuilder and somebody who has done a lot physically for your physical health, I think that potentially could have helped your mental health. and then your network just
Yeah.
support system just does it
Yeah.
even more and more and more. But you have to start with self.
Yes.
Yourself has to be able to control who you are, and you have to understand.
Yeah. One of the things I like to share too is like during the pandemic, I had this manager, this director at this company that I ended up eventually leaving. And it's kind of interesting because when I left, the guy that referred me to the company stuck around a year longer, and he said, "Yeah, I should have left when you did. It wasn't worth my mental health." But I had this really bad director because I had this one director when I went to work for the company. We had this guy, everyone in the company loved him. Our vendors loved him. The guy was in Atlanta, and he's just your what you would picture as your uh stereotypical Southern gentleman, just super nice to people, really friendly, always asking people about their kids, their family, talking about their sports, just really personable, not totally all business, just a really honestly good person. So I started there in November. And so by like January, he gave his notice and they replaced him with his polar opposite. This guy was sexist to the women. Uh, he was just a real jerk about things. I had two direct reports and he would go around me to them instead of coming to me first. And just, he was just really difficult to work with. And so the pandemic hit, so we're at home and kind of lockdown. You're really not supposed to be leaving only for grocery store and just kind of certain things. So you're cooped up at home, and sometimes that can make situations bad. But one of the things I felt peace and comfort in is my wife and I would go on walks at night, and then
Yeah,
just getting out in the neighborhood and seeing the wildlife, just seeing like just the little frogs and just seeing owls and seeing like sometimes we saw a couple coyotes and we live in a city and just seeing things like out in nature, you're out getting something physical, low intensity exercise, you're in nature, you're in the elements, and nature is taking your mind off this stuff while you're getting some good physical activity, low intensity, but good stress reducing exercise. And then just the nature was just a plus being out there at night, seeing the different wildlife, seeing nature, and that was really, really relaxing for me. It was really helped a lot. I really looked forward to going out in the evenings and seeing what kind of creatures we're going to see.
yeah. Nature is healing. I
Yeah.
actually put out a video about that today. Today, yesterday, no, yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Maybe it was. I don't remember. Either yesterday or today. I put out like 3 a day, so I always forget which ones I put out. Um, but yeah, nature is healing. Grounding yourself, touching grass, and it's
Yeah.
funny too because people talk about touching grass and they say it in a derogatory way. But the reality of it is, let your feet touch grass. Like, get away from technology.
Yeah.
Humans were not meant to be surrounded by electronics and technology and
No.
all this stuff. Go out in nature. You will find so much more out of life by getting outside your house and just being away. Leave your phone at home. Like, just cut yourself off from everything. I think that would be huge for a lot of people. But saying that, before I give my final words, Phil, any final words before we go? It is well over the top of the hour, so I want to give you any last bits of wisdom or words that you have to say.
Yeah. So it may be a repeat, but just really work on your network. Just make sure in person and virtual, take advantage of going to these conferences because there's so much you can learn there. And then also work on building a personal brand, because one of the things that people kind of get caught up in sometimes is and I'm not telling people to have bad privacy practices, but some people get too caught up in OPSEC that comes time to find a job and no one knows who the heck they are except for what handful of people they work for. I know someone that works at a company that they're kind of worried about their job. There's been a lot of layoffs. It's kind of a legacy type of brand company that I'm pretty certain it's eventually going to go away because people quit buying that product that way, and they don't have a LinkedIn profile. So how are you? I mean, you at least need to have a LinkedIn profile, but just don't let OPSEC ruin you. Having that brand and that presence is going to help a lot. You don't have to get on Twitter or X or that, but have a LinkedIn profile because LinkedIn has become more thriving community, and it's a way to connect professionally and make sure you're keeping that up to date with any of the skills you have, the jobs. I mean, that's your living, breathing resume. And then, connect with other people. It's going to make your life a lot easier because, as I said, I was able to find a job a day after within less than 24 hours of leaving a job. And there's been times before I had to move that I found jobs right away and people were reaching out to me with opportunities or referring me to other places. So work on that brand and your personal network, your
Yeah,
professional network.
definitely. And even as we talk about mental health and resilience today, that personal network is going to be huge. There have been people that have reached out to me on videos, on DMs, on everything else from my knee surgery. Even before that, when I was just, I blacked out on social media. I went dark. Um, I tune everything out at times because I need that reprieve myself. And so for me, that network is huge. That um, support system and things of that nature. And so as we talk about mental health and resilience, that is going to be the biggest thing you can have is those people that are going to support you. Just do me a favor, going forward, avoid toxic positivity, people that are basically just yes men and yes women. Avoid those like the plague, because they are never going to tell you when you're screwing up. And we need those people in our lives. They're going to tell us when we're screwing up. Otherwise, look, you've all been amazing. Robert, I've not seen you this active in chat. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen you in my chat. So it's good to have you back here. We'll connect on, I'll message you later. But I love you all. You are all my warriors. You're all my family. And look, it's been another amazing episode of Security Happy Hour. And with that, I will see you all next time.